3.5 years ago, I made a video about the amount of millennial butthurt following the Brexit vote. Basically, the most privileged generation to ever exist blamed old folks for ruining their lives to the point of wishing that old people would just hurry up and die. This is a trait you can often observe amongst the self-proclaimed empathetic and tolerant. Incidentally, I looked up our friend Matt Walker to see what his reaction was to the latest UK election results. Sadly, it turns out Matt has been suspended, no doubt for some thoughtful and tolerant posts he's made recently. But it would be remiss of me to only focus on millennials here. In the wake of the Conservative Party's biggest victory in more than 30 years, there is an outpouring of salt from the usual suspects. The aforementioned young, of course, the political left, and out-of-touch, clueless celebrities. But first, for those who've been living under a rock, the election results were as follows. The Conservatives secured a majority with a total of 365 seats, a gain of 47. The Labor Party lost 59 seats, the SNP picked up 13 and the Liberal Democrats lost 1. More on that later. Now to the biggest political losers. Well, that would be Jeremy Corbyn, of course. Although you could be forgiven for thinking Corbyn welcomed his ousting from public life, his pre-election interview with Andrew Neil showed a man that was bored, tired and out of his depth. I wouldn't be surprised if Corbyn is relieved to be out of the spotlight, not being continually reminded of his anti-Semitism and sympathy for terrorist organisations. Although he doesn't seem to have fully absorbed the results, penning this article in The Guardian. We won the argument, but I regret we didn't convert that into a majority for change. Well, call me an oddball, but I would have thought if you'd won the argument, at least in the court of public opinion, then that would have been reflected in the election result. Is this just another veiled, condescending way of saying stupid working class people voted against their own interests? Interestingly, in the article, Corbyn opines about trying to win back the working class. We now need to listen to the voices of those in Stoke and Scunthorpe, Blyth and Bridgend, Grimsby and Glasgow, who didn't support Labour. But The Guardian told us the day before the election that it was a myth that Labour had lost the working class. Well, according to the FT, the Conservatives won on the back of a working class wave. This chart shows that the higher the share of workers in low-skilled jobs in a given constituency, the better the Tories did. Add The Guardian to the list of salty election losers. And of course there was the head of the Liberal Democrats, Joe Swenson, with that disingenuous everything I'm saying is complete bullshit and I know it grin on her face. The leader who said that she could be the next PM. The leader of the anti-democratic party whose linchpin policy position was to oppose Brexit. How did that work out? Well, she couldn't even win her own seat.
Joe Swenson, Scottish Liberal Democrats, 19,523. And I declare that Amy Callaghan is elected to serve in the United Kingdom Parliament as the member for the Eastern Bartonshire County constituency.
Emily Thornberry regurgitated a large dose of salt, most probably accompanied by several kilos of chicken wings.
The real fight has to begin now to save our country, to save our economy, to save our public services from the worst excesses of Boris Johnson's majority and the terrible consequences of a Johnson Brexit. This duplicitous, gutless, reckless Prime Minister has been elected on one issue alone, wrapping himself in the lie that he is the only person to get Brexit done.
Well, if it were true, and it isn't, but if it were true that Johnson was elected on one issue alone, Brexit, then I'd say it's not a bad reason given it was the largest vote of the British people in history. I mean, we all know the majority of the political establishment, including the Tories, opposed Brexit, but at least Boris decided to implement the will of the people. I mean, Labour certainly wasn't going to do it. Now, of course, the leftist political commentariat consulted their Children's Guide to Political Debate and decided that everyone that voted the wrong way must be racist, exemplified here by Paul Mason. BBC exit poll predicts Tories to take 70-plus seats. If so, a victory of the old over the young, racists over people of colour, selfishness over the planet. Ah. Owen Jones also had a good cry.
Well, firstly, it's a catastrophic result for the country and for everything that the Labour Party exists to fight for, the people it was founded to champion, to represent. And I'm so sorry to people watching this who are full of dismay and horror and who are scared.
Notice the apocalyptic language, dismay and horror, and people who are scared. Still don't get it, do you? But then socialists never do. They always speak on behalf of other people because they know what's best for them. Religious idiot Mehdi Hassan decided to play a round of bigotry bingo. Dark day for minorities in the UK, especially for British Muslims who watched as a man who said Islam was the problem, mocked veiled Muslim women, and also turned a blind eye to massive anti-Muslim hatred in his party, was just given a landslide majority by their fellow Britons.
I care about what's true. Do you actually believe in your Muslim faith? Do you believe that Muhammad split the moon in two? Do you believe that Muhammad flew to heaven on a winged horse, for example? I'd pay you the compliment of assuming that you don't.
No, I do. I believe in miracles.
You believe that?
Yes.
You believe that Muhammad went to heaven on a winged horse?
Yes, I believe in God. I believe in miracles. I believe in revelation. The point here is that let's assume I'm wrong, Richard. I'm wrong.
Let's
assume I'm wrong.
And of course, what would an election be without arrogant celebrities making complete pricks of themselves? First up, Steve Coogan.
I just wonder what your alter ego, Alan Partridge, would make of it all.
Well, Alan Partridge is ill-informed and ignorant, and therefore he's a Conservative and a Brexiteer, so there you go.
So he'd be voting Boris Johnson?
Yes, because and I was worth saying, I think that the reason the Tories don't invest as much money in education is because they depend on a certain level of ignorance for their support.
Nothing like calling half your countrymen idiots, is there, Steve? How'd that work out? Terry Christian echoed the condescension and contempt for his fellow countrymen. What area would you say is the biggest, poorest shithole in the north that has made itself look the stupidest by voting for the Tories and Brexit? John Hannah decided on the everyone I disagree with is a racist interpretation. This whole Brexit clusterfuck is really about one thing: immigration. Like it or not, turns out we're a country of racists, and Brexit EU scepticism is the cover. It's all about English nationalism. Shameful. Some semi-literate moron called Stormzy made this wonderfully articulate pitch to his fans, most of whom aren't even old enough to vote.
Personally, for me, it's very clear-cut, yeah. Jeremy Corbyn is a man of hope, a man of justice, a man of equality, and the other guys are fucking pricks, so don't be stupid, but go use your vote, serious.
And of course there was Hugh Grant, who at least walked the walk by taking a night off from getting blowjobs from prostitutes in the back of his car to go out and canvass for both Labor and Lib Dem candidates. Unfortunately, none of them actually won the seats they were contesting. As the results rolled in, showing a huge Tory win, Hugh tweeted out, "There goes the neighbourhood." Well, I'm sure you'll be safe in your $17.5 million Chelsea home, Hugh. And now to a random assortment of wankers no one's ever heard of. And the cream of the crop has to be this clueless toff, once again showing the tolerance and compassion she and her ilk are so famous for.
He is a pig, and I'm so ashamed that he's the Prime Minister of my country. It's disgusting, and I wish him the worst. I wish him a horrible death. I don't know if you're allowed to put that online, but he's fucking everything up for people my age, our future. I plan to work in the NHS. I plan to be a doctor. I plan to actually care about people. Yeah, I wish him the worst. Go fuck yourself, Boris Johnson. Honestly, what a cunt.
I'm sure she'll make a splendid doctor, just as long as her patients aren't Tories.
I plan to actually care about people. I wish him a horrible death.
Then there was this nobody who thought he was somebody tweeting out, "Friendly reminder, if you voted Tory, don't listen to our music, don't come to our shows. We don't fucking want you." If you read the replies to that tweet, of which there are over 5,000, it appears he has nothing to worry about because no one has ever heard of him and his shitty band. This stable genius appears to have an undiagnosed case of bigotry bingo Tourette syndrome.
Not my Prime Minister! Not my Prime Minister! Fascist bastard! Not my Prime Minister! 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 Fascist! Fascist! Racist! Sexist! Fascist! Sexist! Racist!
And then, of course, we have well wishes from the anime Avatar crowd, always a red flag. I hear Boris Johnson is coming to the north of England soon. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity for someone there to do the right thing and stab that vicious fucker to death. Always with the love. And what would a juvenile political meltdown look like without the masked cowards of Antifa? Now, if only Boris could redirect some police away from the important task of harassing citizens for offensive tweets to clubbing Antifa thugs with batons. We can only dream. Anyway, perhaps the best way to sum up the reaction of the bad left-wing losers is with the words of Douglas Murray. Britain's divide isn't north versus south or red versus blue. It's between the ugly, intolerant left and the rest of us. As usual, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next time.